the YouTube thing, if you don't
All
mind.
right,
Just-
sure. Let me see. I just see 3 participants. Did you stop something?
No.
I mean, Ramin is saying that he's waiting to be let in, but I just see the 3 of us as participants.
Yeah.
Ah, you let him in.
Yes.
Good. Because I cannot anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because now you are the host,
Yeah,
so I don't
okay,
have
okay.
any right.
We are live on
Yeah.
YouTube now. No?
Excellent. I mean, Ramin is saying that he's waiting to be let
No,
in.
I'm here. I'm here.
The 3 of us as participants. It's a
Hi,
record.
Ramin.
It's
There
a
you go.
recording. You let him in.
So, can you see me?
Yes.
But I cannot anymore.
Yes, we do. Hi, Ramin.
Hello, Francesco. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, literally.
Yes, we can put a face to a voice now.
There you go. That's correct. So,
We are live on YouTube. Just for
fantastic.
information.
Okay. So just to just to go over very quickly before we start, I'll make a quick welcome and also talk very generally about the FIVO position paper on alternative fuels, and then introduce the guests, and then we can start from there. I would think, and take it from there basically.
Excellent. Francesco, this is the
slideshow,
presentation
yeah.
which I made for you.
Very good, thank you. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Jean-Mario, I think we have a problem. All the attention will go to the car instead of the subject.
Yeah, that's why I was reluctant to add the photos, but in the end.
Welcome, Nigel.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
Hi, Nigel. Nice
Hi.
meeting you.
Good to meet you. So I've just arrived in a hotel at a place called Port Merion on the coast of Wales. So we've literally 5 minutes been in the room, just connected to the Wi-Fi. So apologies if you see stuff going on behind me.
No problem. Thank you for making it on time.
Okay.
Okay.
7 people are waiting.
Okay, fantastic.
We have 4 minutes more to go.
Yeah.
Nigel, just a question for you. Do you prefer to launch the slides yourself, or you want me to launch them for you, and then you tell me next one?
Yeah, why don't you launch them? It will save sharing screens and things. So if I just say next slide and we'll take it from there.
All right, fine with me. I'm ready for that.
Good. It's probably easier.
Very well. Let me give it a try just to be sure that. All right, now you see it
Yeah, it's there.
not full screen.
Yeah, it's good.
Now you see it full screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Yeah, great.
Good. All set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we can let people in.
Yeah. Up to you, Ramin. What do you think?
Because we are live on YouTube, so I'm afraid it's not very exciting for people if they are joining and just see us like this. So that's why.
Okay. We have 3 minutes, just maybe 1 more minute, and then we can start letting them in, if you agree.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I think maybe we can start letting them analyze it, if you agree. It's it's
Doing
2
it now.
minutes. 2 minutes and the countdown is starting.
Mhm.
Hello, Malcolm.
Good afternoon, or evening, or morning, or whatever it is where you are.
Yes. Hello, Malcolm.
Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Hi, Elise.
Hi, David.
Hello, David.
Hi, David.
Hi, you're right.
Yeah, I just
Nigel?
made it in the nick of
Hi.
time.
Yes, well, I'm in the oldest pub in England, believe it or not,
Right, where's that?
Cambridgeshire.
Oh, right.
Yeah, 200 plus years old. So it popped up on the booking site, and I thought, oh, I've never been there. That's got to be a good place to spend the night.
Okay.
Is the beer any good?
There we go. So if you can see that, I'll give you an
The
idea
gin
of
and
where I
tonic
am.
is. Where are
Wait a
you?
Port Merion, there we go.
Oh, Port Merion. Right. We'll see you flash off as the prisoner in America.
Yes, exactly.
Very good.
I'll be seeing you, as they say.
Yeah. Oh, what had you got? Was it a Jaguar thing you were? Or am I totally confused?
No, so this is so
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
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 Hi, Ramin.
Hello.
Hello, Ramin. It's 5 sharp.
Okay.
So whenever you want.
Gianmario, can you hear me? Is this working?
Yes.
Perfect. Good.
Hello, Christian.
Hi, Gianmario.
Loud and clear.
Hi, Ramin.
Good morning, everyone.
you think so?
Hello.
Hello.
Morning.
Hi, Alexander. Yeah.
Hi.
So was that a clue for us to start?
Indeed.
Gianmario?
Yes.
Ramin, when you are ready, we are
Yes,
ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So from my side, good morning from McLean, Virginia.
Oh,
It's 11 a.m. here.
showing off.
Yes. So good morning to some, good morning, good afternoon to many. And if you allow me, we'll start. And I'd like to mention that this is FIVA chat room number 31. And the subject is the historical vehicles and alternative fuels. What is the future? Before we start, I would just like to mention that in 2022, FIVA did a position paper on alternative fuels. And given the fact that, you know, our vehicles are not, we don't believe in the modification of our vehicles, but we do welcome and respect fuels which will work with our vehicles. Given recent developments, which we're very excited to discuss today, it looks like there's a good future that we can continue using our vehicles without having to modify them to use the new generation of fuels. And so given with that background, I'd like to introduce our two guests, Mr. Francesco Di Loro, who is the head of the ASI Green Commission. ASI, as you know, is our ANF in Italy, and he has some exciting news about some testing that they did using a Lancia Stratos from the Bertone collection, and some very exciting results which he'll share with us. And also Mr. Nigel Matthews from the HVC, the NF in Great Britain. And Nigel is the alternative fuels expert of the BHVC. And he's done extensive work on this field, and he's going to share the latest developments with us. And he brings with him a broad experience in this field and is even working with the British Standards Institute. So if you allow me, I think with that background and with that start, I would like to hand over to Francesco and start the first presentation, and then followed by Nigel.
So let me say hello to everyone. I say hello because for some people it is morning, for other people in Australia it is, I don't know what, night, deep night. So hello to everyone. Thank you, Ramin, for the introduction. Also, thank you for the invitation. It will be, I hope, very exciting today. Also, nice meeting Olise, nice meeting Nigel, and thank you, Gian Mario, for helping me with the slideshow.
My pleasure.
Enough with pleasantries because we only have 15 minutes, and besides that, English is not my first language. It is only my first and a half language. So as a matter of fact, I will be a little bit slower, especially when we come to the more technical stuff. So I said we only have 15 minutes. Let's jump into the deep end of the pool. I am the head of the ASI Green Commission, as Ramin has said. What's the mission of this commission? The mission is leaving no stone unturned for trying to ensure a bright and sustainable future to historic motoring by proposing any kind of solution which might fit in our frame and which might be useful for reaching that objective. We work following the laws of sustainability. Sustainability is quite a new science, but I'm not going deep into that now, but it has to be reminded that sustainability works on 3 legs. One is for the environment, the other one is for the economy, the third one is for society. What's the meaning of all this? It is a clockwork. No one of those legs must prevail on the others. If there is a step forward on one leg, it must not be done at the detriment of another one or both the others. So everything must work in balance, in harmony. This, I'm afraid to say, probably was forgotten by the European Union when they issued the rules for 2035, 2050. I do not want to go in that controversy now, but probably it has to be reminded that they forgot about society and they forgot about the economy, and they took only the environment into consideration. So you see what is happening now, that factories are closing, some competitors from the Far East have an unfair advantage. So the entire industry is in turmoil. Enough said. Let's go back to what we do and what we did in our infancy, because we still are toddlers. The commission was founded 20 months ago, and we've been working quite a lot. And I'm happy today to illustrate some of the results. But let me remind you that today we will discuss biogasoline of second generation biogasoline. But that's not our only project. We are also active on the front of reforestation for carbon offsetting. We are studying deeply the life cycle of an historic vehicle to demonstrate that an historic vehicle is the most sustainable thing on the roads today. We are pretty convinced that numbers will show that. And also we are working on the mixture for two-stroke engines. You know that the fuel is composed also by oil, and also the oil must be sustainable. Otherwise, everything is lost. The advantage is lost. So this is very briefly what we are doing. But let's go now to biogasoline, second generation biogasoline. I have been strongly advised not to go deep into technical things today, not to overdo it, and I agree, because we might lose big chunk of the audience. In any case, please remember that if someone is interested, I will be always available to a second chat room or whatever Ramin will want me to do. And in that occasion, maybe we go deeper into technical things. Today, I just want to remember what we did, and then I'm ready, open to question of any kind. What are biofuels? They are absolutely the same as gasoline as we know it today, only that the origin is different. The origin is from carbon atoms that are combined to make molecules of hydrocarbons, but they are second-hand carbon atoms, not new. They do not come from the underground, from fossil oil, but they come from the atmosphere, and they have been captured by trees, by plants, by organisms that are able to do it instead of us. They do it for us. And then we go and take the carbon atoms from the cellulose inside the trees. I'm now, this is not scientific talk, just to remind you. I'm just trying to make it easy to understand how they are produced. So the carbon atoms, which are secondhand because they come from the atmosphere, are combined with hydrogen. The molecules of hydrocarbons are built to reproduce the ones that are in the gasoline as we know it, in the correct quantities. In the end, everything is mixed and blended together, and we obtain a liquid. Now we want to know, is that liquid any good? Is that liquid, can we call that liquid gasoline? The answer is yes, we can, because it is certificated as EN 228D. So that means that all the components are the right ones, and they are in the correct range that allow that liquid to be named as gasoline. Let's go back to the production process. The fact that the carbon atoms are secondhand means that you don't emit new carbon atoms in the atmosphere. So if your car emits, let's say, 100 kilograms, a certain number of those kilograms have been of carbon dioxide, CO2. A certain number of those kilograms has been taken from the atmosphere. So it is a cycle. It is a cycle. And the net balance of that cycle is the saving or the avoidance of overburdening the atmosphere with new carbon dioxide. I've seen that my microphone has been. Could you hear everything I said? Yeah. I noticed that there has been an interruption. No, I go back to it. So this means that the atmosphere is not overburdened with new carbon dioxide. The fuel that we used was an 80% sustainable. So that means that the saving on the use of that gasoline in engines was 80%. If we measure the life cycle, that means if we take into consideration also the emissions for transporting and for other operations during the production, it is slightly less. It is 65%, but still a huge saving. So 80% in the running in the actual use in the engines, and 65% in the entire life cycle. This is the first result, but then, as I said, we wanted to know if this fuel is any good. Why? Because this is the meaning of what we have undertaken is a big confidence-building process. The most scientific-minded of us can read the numbers and the data that the producers show to us. And by seeing what is inside the fuel, we are confident that it is almost the same, if not much better, than the fuel you can buy at the pump. But we have in Italy, only in Italy, 300,000 enthusiasts, and we have to convince them. And we know that some of them have doubts, some of them are skeptical. So we wanted to be very didascalic and start a process which could build confidence in each one of them, because we don't want anyone to quit our passion just because of fear of worse things to come. So step by step, we brought the samples that we received to the laboratory to confirm the data sheet that we received from the producer. And what we saw is that inside this liquid, there are all the right hydrocarbons in all the right quantities, no additional harmful substance. And what happens is also that some corrosive elements are lower in percentage than in the fuel that we have, that we buy at the pump. Also, the most important RON, the octane number, we found it was very stable. We found very stable readings, sample by sample, which is not the same at the pump. At the pump, if you measure the RON, there is a big variation. Sometimes you read 96 instead of 98, sometimes 97, 97.5, 98.3. So there is a big variation. Here we found a steady 98 or steady 102 in the racing fuel. And this is very important. What else did we find? We found ethanol less than 1%. This is of huge importance because ethanol is a big enemy of classic cars, of old generation engines, because ethanol is very hygroscopic and it draws water, it sucks water, and water can do terrible things to your engines. So a simple word of wisdom, be very cautious at the pump when you find E10. E5, okay, can be put into an old engine. E10 is very dangerous to fuel pumps, to fuel tanks, and so on. But enough of that. In our fuel, we found less than 1%. And this is very reassuring. It's very reassuring because it means that the mix was made especially for old cars that get very little use. The fuel remains for a long time in the tanks, and if you have corroding means going on, it's a terrible thing. So these are the main things. Then we thought, okay, now we must see the emissions. We must measure the emissions. We must find one car for doing that. We could have chosen a Fiat 500 or a simple four-cylinder car. But we thought that a Lancia Stratos would be more meaningful because it's an icon, because the engine is a Ferrari engine. The Ferrari engine is known for being quite temperamental, and it wants a very good diet. So we said, okay, the test will be more meaningful if we use this car. This is one of our cars, so belonging to the Bertone collection. The tests were conducted last year, and last year this car was 50 years old, and it was almost very romantic to me to understand that an old warrior like this, that has done wonderful things for competitive motoring, was now recalled back into service and was ready to be again at service of motor sport and of historic motoring. So an old warrior is always ready. And we put this car on a rolling road in a very well equipped laboratory and measured the emission back to back. First, we started with normal fuel, then with the biogasoline. The results were quite surprising because we already know about the saving of 80%, but what we also found out is that also CO, carbon oxide, also particulate matter, also nitrogen oxide and other pollutants were considerably lower. Not the same saving as carbon dioxide, of course, but enough, between 15% and 31%. So this is a byproduct of this test, something we did not expect, but something that was very welcome indeed. Now, we wanted to know if this fuel is any good, as I said before, and the only way is to measure the performance. We took some readings on the rolling road to measure the power, and the power was the same. But then we wanted to go to the track. So we brought it to the Vairano facility near Milan. Here you see Gianni Tonti, who was responsible for the development of the Stratos rally program, together with Alberto Scuro, the president of ASI, and myself. It was an incredible day at the track site. The car ran for the whole day. We did 600 kilometers, first with normal fuel and then with a biofuel. The performance was measured again back to back. There was no difference, no significant difference in revs, maximum revs, and in maximum speed. There was a slight advantage in acceleration, and this was explained to us by the technicians because this fuel has a bit more oxygen in it, so probably it is beneficial in some range, some RPM range. And the temperatures were always okay. The temperature at the exhaust was perfect. This means that the velocity of the flame inside the chamber was ideal. So really no real drawback, but only advantages. The consumption, yes, I was forgetting the consumption. Same consumption with normal fuel and biofuel. So at the end of the day, we were very satisfied because we had demonstrated that that gasoline is absolutely comparable to what you can buy at the pump, but with a number of advantages, environmental advantages, as I said, and without requiring any modification to the engines, without requiring adjustment to the carburation or whatever, the advanced retard or whatever you want, without altering the most important thing, which is the temperature at the exhaust. So all positive results. This is not the end of the story yet, because we are now planning to take another car and let it run for 10,000 kilometers. And in our opinion, this will be the definitive test that could reassure everyone, because, well, an historic car is driven for approximately 1,000, 2,000 miles per year, or sorry, kilometers per year. So that means that 10,000 kilometers will be the equivalent of 5 years of use. At the end of the test, we will take the engine apart and photograph every part, every moving part, take apart also the carburetors and whatever, to demonstrate that nothing has happened to a precious old engine. This is more or less what we did in 2024 and in the first month of 25. I think that one last thing that I want to bring to your attention is that I've been assured by the people who produce this fuel that there will be no shortage of waste material for producing. What they told me is that today we have enough stuff, enough feedstock, as they call it, to produce enough fuel for all the cars, old and modern, driven on the European roads today. So this is a great reassurance for the future of our passion. Thank you for the attention. I'll be here to to listen very attentively to what the next panelist will say, and then I'm ready for your questions whenever you want. Thank you, everyone, and see you later.
Yes, Francesco, thank you very much for that not only fascinating but very, very encouraging report. And it does give us solid grounds for future for our vehicles using these alternative fuels. So thank you so much. It was very interesting and very, very, again, I hate to emphasize, but very encouraging. So thank you so much. And I'd like to ask Nigel Matthews from the FBHVC to make his presentation.
Yeah, hi, it's actually Nigel Elliott.
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay, don't worry.
I just had a 32-hour flight, so my apologies.
No, it's fine. That's fine. Okay, you take me back to slide 1. Okay. Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. Just to say a few things about myself first, very quickly. I worked for ExxonMobil for 35 years. I was their senior fuels product quality advisor for Europe prior to my retirement. And then I did another 3.5 years for them as a consultant, helping them out with industry activity and training. I was a member of the gasoline working group in Europe that developed the EN 228 specification. So a lot of that specification was down to me and fellow experts across Europe. I also chaired the diesel group in Europe for about 10 years, looking after the diesel specification as well. So that was my background. I'm interested in motorsport, and I'm a hill climber in the UK with an old Triumph TR7 V8 with a 4.6 twin turbo engine that I've built myself and operated. So I'm into the mechanics as well as the fuel quality, just to give you that background. Okay, so let's kick off. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, obviously a lot of interest in non-fossil fuel alternatives to petrol in the historic and classic vehicle enthusiasts area. Concerns over vehicle compatibility, and thanks to Francesco for his excellent summary of the work that they've been carrying out in Italy. Obviously, we don't want to see any harm to vehicles and fuel systems. If we just quickly look at biofuel options, they're really limited to sugarcane, beet, and waste sources. Use cooking oil, tallow from animal rendering, and wood. And obviously there are issues there because of competition with food crops and sustainability issues. So for petrol, up to now, we've been talking bioethanol and biomethanol, not so much biomethanol because the amount of it is limited in the EN 228 specification because it's even more aggressive than bioethanol. And on the diesel side, we have the fatty acid methyl ester and hydrotreated vegetable oils. Certainly, as I mentioned there, ethanol, methanol, and FAME all have compatibility issues with vehicles. But e-fuels offer a future volume solution, but do require high levels of low-cost renewable electricity to be viable. And so there are some new sustainable fuel options that offer a kind of halfway house solution at the moment, where bioethanol and biomethanol are converted to a full boiling range petrol, as described by Francesco. We go to the next slide. This slide really just shows that we're talking about two routes, if you like, at the moment. Carbon capture at the bottom, carbon capture CO2 from the air, so the carbon is sourced from the air, and then water electrolysis to form hydrogen. You combine the two together and you make the classic e-fuel, synthetic renewable fuel. And this is the project that's going on in South America, in Chile, that Porsche are pursuing. Porsche are doing that with other companies such as Siemens and also ExxonMobil. And ExxonMobil are involved because they have methanol to gasoline technology. So basically, they have the catalyst technology that can turn the methanol into a full boiling range gasoline. So that's a kind of final route. But in the meantime, there are a number of suppliers out there actually using biomass. So essentially taking ethanol and methanol from bioproduction, and they're then using the methanol or ethanol to gasoline route to make a full boiling range renewable petrol. So we go to the next slide. There's a number of current producers out there, and I've just picked a couple really that are prominent. I'm not advocating any one of them, just saying these are around and this is what they're doing. Corriton and P1 Fuels. Corriton are in the UK and P1 are based in Germany, and they're using biomass from waste. They're using second generation technologies, it's called, to produce ethanol or methanol. And then, as I've mentioned earlier, that's then converted to a full boiling range gasoline using the catalyst technology. No fuel handling issues. It will go through the existing distribution system without any problems, and no vehicle compatibility issues. It meets the EN 228 specification and has been widely used already without any problems, particularly in motor racing. That's one of the big areas where it's being used. The final blend may require other materials to be added to it to adjust the finished quality. So you do sometimes see some methanol or ethanol added and some ethers maybe just to meet the final specification depending on what they're aiming at. But there are various options available. So very low ethanol options, but then you would typically use ethers to make up the octane where you need it. And the ethers are harm-free. They've been used, ethyl tertiary butyl ether and MTBE, methyl tertiary butyl ether, have been used for many years. Not so much MTBE these days, more ETBE, but they're used to tweak the octane if required. So we move to the next slide. I'm not going to get into the chemistry here, but I put this in just to illustrate the process, how you turn the methanol in this case through to a final gasoline, and you'll see at the end the process really produces paraffins, naphthenes, and aromatics, and they will be normal constituents of normal fossil produced petrol. So this material is exactly the same. The only benefit being is it has slightly less contaminants in it that you would have from a conventional fossil derived biofuel. So it's a conventional fossil derived crude oil derived fuel. Okay, so you don't have all the contaminants that come with the crude that you have to manage in refining normally. This is a much purer product at the end of the day, and obviously very low sulfur as well. So it meets the requirements of less than 10 parts per million sulfur for European gasoline. Okay, go to the next slide. This is a typical example of the base material that you get out of the process. You'll note the octanes are slightly low, and that's why they need tweaking up a little bit. But that can be done, and you can make a good 98 or even a 99 with this material, and meet the motor octane requirements as well of 85 for Europe, and 86 for the super grades that are actually out there. So that's all fine. The other characteristics like the vapor pressure and boiling range are all in line with conventional petrol. So these look very good, and as you note here at the bottom, low benzene, aromatics contents are within the normal range, You have to watch that kind of thing as well, because aromatics have a big effect on seal swell and also the solvency of the gasoline. So it's important to maintain certain levels just to help general blending, etc. So it looks like a good material. We go to the next slide. This is an example of the P1 Eco 100 fuel, and you'll see that it meets EN 228. And so it meets the standard EU pump fuel requirements. Low alcohol content, less than 0.3%, 95 research octane, and compatibility it's fine with. Okay, don't need any modifications. It's a drop-in solution, as we say, and yeah, same as dealing with a normal 95. Go to the next slide. Okay, this is the race fuel, the Eco 100 RS, and in this case we've got a 102 research octane, a slightly higher alcohol content, which is really reflecting the need to boost the octane to get it up there. But again, it's a drop-in solution. You don't need any special materials in the vehicle to run this. It's been extensively used at places like Goodwood in the UK for many of the special events there, and also at Silverstone last year. Next slide. Corriton, the other supplier, and here's a range of what they're making and providing at the moment. So what they call the classic Super 33, so a 98 RON, less than 1% ethanol, very conventional gasoline, looks very good. The Super 80, which is again in there, more oxygen in this one. Okay, and the Racing Moto 40, the 102, different versions, slightly different versions of that, reflecting different amounts of renewable material. Okay, next slide. So these options really produce a full boiling range petrol from bioethanol or biomethanol, perfectly safe to use in classic and historic vehicles. They meet the requirements of the existing fuel standard EN 228, and there are various versions available. So there is a choice out there for classic car enthusiasts to decide what they want to use. It is important to check the specification, just make sure you can manage the methanol content, but typically they are on the low side, so not generally a problem. And they represent basically a very good way of running older vehicles. I think the only negative really is the cost, and you're typically talking in UK terms, it's about £5 to £6, just over £6 a litre. So it's not cheap. It's not a low-cost fuel, but one will expect in the future that costs will come down as production increases. Now, Francesco talked about it earlier a little bit about the EU and where they are and what they've sort of done and how it's really starting to hurt European industry in a big way. And I suspect that they will have to back off further from the 2035 date at the moment for the end of internal combustion engines. I think this will be backed off a long way. And certainly my old company, ExxonMobil, are predicting that in 2050, 54% of the world's energy will still come from oil and gas. And that's really the real scientific and commercial facts of life. So I'm expecting that petrol will be around for a long time yet, fossil petrol, but this is certainly a way to help us argue for the sustainability of our classic vehicles and keep them running on the road. So I think we're in a good place. And we should support these fuels where we can, but also recognize that there will be other options. Okay, I'm done. I'm open to questions with Francesco.
Yes. Well, Nigel, thank you very much. A very comprehensive report. And again, all the signs are encouraging. And I think, and even the fact that you mentioned the costs are a factor, but you're right, with the increased scale, hopefully the manufacturers can start amortizing their costs and making it more economically viable for the owners. So thank you very much, and I'd like to hand over to the audience, and the forum is open now for any questions that you may have.
How do you do that?
I see Patrick has a question, Ramin.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, or whatever it is during the day to all of you. Very interesting information from both speakers. Thank you. I just would like to bring a little testimony. I'm not an engineer, far from it, but I've been organizing with some friends a touring rally for the last 30 years called the Fougères International Rally. It's a FIVA event, of course. And for the first time this year, we are going to propose to the participants some biofuel. It's actually the Sustain product, Coriton, or in France it's called Marline, but it's the same stuff made by the Aspen Group. Two conclusions. The rally is going to be in May. There'll be 170 cars, all cars pre-1970, with about 40% pre-war. And when we ask them on the application form, do you want to use that product, that new product, with a little explanation of what you just said, gentlemen, the answers were interesting. Out of 170, 33%, a third said yes, we'll use it. By the way, the price was put at €2 a litre, which is the price of regular petrol. So the price effect is out of the scene. About 33% said no, I won't use that. And the rest, probably the most interesting, was I just didn't answer. So I thought it was interesting to consider that there will be a little resistance to change. After a reminder, we are going to put the proportion of people using the product to 40%. But still, it's not everybody. The second conclusion I draw from this experience is very positive, and it's political. We had relations with the towns, city halls and départements and regions we are crossing for 30 years, which were sometimes lukewarm, sometimes negative, sometimes positive. But this year, when you tell them that we're going to propose so-called green fuel to the participants, they are really smiling at it, and the press loves it. So sociologically, I think it's extremely good. It's a wonderful communication item. Psychologically, one by one, there is a resistance to change. And my conclusion, I think, is that it's certainly to be tempted. We have to anticipate. It may not be the only solution, of course, for the future, but I think it's one worth trying. That's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Patrick. Ramin, I have another question and a comment from Christian Schamburek from Austria. Christian?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. It was very interesting. I mean, we as an association here in Austria, we are part since 3 years of the board of e-fuel.
Sorry, Christian, can you speak a bit higher, with a bit higher tone?
Louder?
Louder, please.
Louder, okay. So we are here in Austria with the association since, I think, 2022. We are at the board of the e-fuel alliance, because what we heard now was, let's say, very focused on biogasoline, but only Nigel, I think, mentioned in a short sentence that also a very interesting potential for the future, that synthetic fuels. one by Fischer-Tropsch process and also by CO2 capturing from the air, which is maybe on a long term also an interesting alternative to let's say keep our classic cars on the road. What we did here in Austria, I think 1 year ago already, we did a lot of material tests with pure synthetic fuel and also engine tests, also to get some proofs if this kind of new petrol is okay for our all engines. And also here, the results are very promising. And so it should not be a problem to, let's say, also operate our classic cars with pure synthetic fuels. Because we have, with the biofuels, we have maybe one issue. Yeah? So from the political parties on the green side, there is always or very often coming the criticism that we use RAPs and this kind of stuff, which can also be used as food for the people. And that's maybe a critic issue regarding biofuels. And this we don't have with the pure synthetic fuel side. Another point is also the basic materials we have. I think Nigel, you or also Francesco mentioned it. I see it difficult because this is a restricted resource. If you have a look on the e-fuel side from the synthetic, where we need air and wind at the end of the day to produce the electricity, and that's a resource which is never ending. So to, let's say, keep our cars on the road, it's and here I'm with you, Nigel, it's very important to have this, let's say, to give our politicians the vision and the knowledge that we, with our historic cars, have an alternative to operate them on a CO2 neutral base or a base which is very friendly to the environment. I think that's the base of everything what we are discussing here, because the restrictions we are facing in 2035 or 2040, at the end of the day, is at the moment, from today's point of view, only valid for new registered cars and not for classic cars. So I think that's a very interesting discussions we have here now. And I think also the political frame, which is now different than half a year ago, will also make it easier for us and to keep our cars on the road. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Ramin, could I comment briefly? Or Gianmario?
Yes,
please,
by all means.
Francesco.
Can I comment?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to clarify that second generation biofuels are not criticized, cannot be criticized for depriving populations of food. The first generation of biofuels was like that. And in fact, it didn't obey the law of sustainability very much, because in fact, it could deprive hungry populations of their food. The second generation comes only from waste. So there's not, this danger does not exist anymore. And the third generation will be from seaweeds. That is even better. That said, we are not partisans for biofuels. For us, biofuel or e-fuels are the same end result. And both are good to keep both are good if they can help us in keeping our cars on the road. So really a number of solutions is what can save us, and not one single solution. One last comment to Patrick. Very interesting what you said. I can confirm. We have a track day on March the 3rd in Cervesina, which is a track near Milan. And we also did what you did. So we offered the participants the possibility of receiving biofuel. And I can confirm what you said, 40% said yes. So the percentage is almost the same. And that's very, very interesting. Very interesting and also reassuring.
Thank you. I have two people who want to talk. Mr. Roger Beatty from Australia, who would like to share his experiences in that area, and then Ronnie Karam, who's waving his hand since a while. Roger, please. Roger.
Yep. Yes. Hello. Thank you.
Here you are.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning from Australia. A bit of a shock at 3 o'clock in the morning, but anyway, we're at it. Just like to say we've been running a national survey of heritage vehicles, particularly with a view to gathering more political information about what people will do and if fuels are unavailable. There's definitely an interest to use synthetic fuels or biofuels, but we've been looking at fuels and lubricants right across the operating heritage area, not just in vehicles, but it's been interesting. There's a very little understanding of what it's going to take to both fuel and lubricate vehicles. If oil goes, our issue here in Australia is that we don't refine any oil anymore. Everything's imported. So if it goes to if we have to go off fossil fuels, which thank you for to Nigel for giving us a bit more time. But if we do have to, it's what we do. So. But I was also interested on the e-fuels. There's often seems to be resistance on the synthetic stuff about the amount of electricity that gets used and the level of efficiency. I talk about e-fuels very enthusiastically, but I get pushback from people who say, "Oh, but if you're using electricity to create hydrogen to blend to make fuel, it's an inefficient use." And I find it a fairly spurious argument when we'll be able to pluck the electricity for almost nothing from the atmosphere. But I also have a bit of an analogy that I've now taken to asking them, are they vegetarians? And they say, no, why? I say, well, surely if you grew plants and ate it, it's a much more efficient thing to do than eating meat. And they don't like hearing, but it just kind of gives a kind of an analogous version of the creation of the same product. Anyway, that's all. That's like I say, at 3:30 in the morning, 3:50 in the morning, probably as good as I'm going to get at the moment. But I just thought I'd like to have the opportunity to share some of those things with you. And I don't know if I can share the screen. I've got some survey results that we're actually running at the moment. I don't think. Well, let's share. Yeah, we've been gathering, in joint with one of the big universities in Australia, and we've been gathering information about petroleum, diesel, wood, all by different measures. Someone was telling us how many barrow loads of wood they use in their steam engine, which was going to be hard to convert that, I guess. But sort of we're currently crunching some figures to come up with a total fuel use for the heritage fleet in Australia. So as we get closer to that, it will give us some more information to talk to suppliers about how we go about providing it in future. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Roger. Ronnie?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Roger, I wish you a nice continuation of sleep. My question is to Francesco. I didn't get exactly the point regarding, you said that after 10,000 kilometers, you will open the engine and take photographs to prove that no harm happened to the engine. Has it been done? And I think that if yes, and the proof is definitely no harm, we come back to what Patrick was saying, that the 40% reluctant to use e-fuels, when you show them this, and it should be highlighted as a result in parallel with the reputation of e-fuels. Most of the reluctant people will say, okay, now you tried it, and not on any engine, not as you mentioned, the Fiat 500, but a Ferrari engine, which are very sensitive engines. I think it will convince many people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I'm sure that will be the definitive move. We started this new program on February the 19th. This time we are using a Lancia Flaminia Touring 2.8 of V6, and which is another very sensitive engine, as you quite rightly defined, the Stratos engine. We started in Rome on the 19th because we were received at the Parliament, and there was the official start of this program. I think that the program will be ending possibly after the summer, because the car is going to be used in several ASI events, and then at the end of the season, it will be driven on the same track where the Stratos was driven, and do the final 1,000 kilometers there with the same technicians, and then immediately the engine will be taken apart and everything examined inside. And I think that will be a great day because, of course, as I said, the more scientific minded of us are sure that it will be perfect and clean. But of course, people need convincing, and this is what we want to do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Our president, Tito Bressers, has raised his hand. Welcome, Tito, on board.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon, good evening. I'm happy to see so many faces here, a record number of participants from all corners of the world. I'm very happy that we have this important subject. I only joined you after half an hour, but I understand that it was basically about biofuels. I'm happy that also somebody raised the issue of e-fuels. My question is, has somebody of you seen this report from the European Commission that was quite devastating about the, let's say, future of e-fuels for use in road transport? That's my first question. And the second question is, as about 50% of the price that we pay for fuel is taxes, are you aware of any initiatives to, let's say, promote a more beneficial position, a more beneficial approach of biofuels or e-fuels in the fuel taxation? So two maybe quite difficult questions, but I hope somebody can answer this first one about e-fuels, second one about taxation. Thanks.
Okay, would you like me to say something about e-fuel?
Please.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it is a viable alternative. It does need a lot of energy, obviously, but it's renewable energy and doesn't quite come for free. But it's low in terms of environmental impact. The big deal is making the hydrogen and improving the electrolysis process, try and make that more efficient. At the moment, it's tough to get it up to sort of 40% or so, but that will improve. That will improve, I think, a little bit over time, and also the difficulty in filtering the CO2 out of the atmosphere and using the carbon to make the fuel. But I think these things become more attractive as you start to see the depletion of conventional fossil fuels. Now, fossil is going to be around for a long time yet, a very long time yet. So we shouldn't get too worried about that. And I suspect the politicians will have to change their view as to what's going to go on, because to actually produce the power, the electrical power needed to recharge all the electric vehicles is massive. There is no effective means of storing the energy unless you have the appropriate geology in your country that can allow for pump storage, etc. But batteries are not going to do it. They will cost trillions of euros and will only run grids for a very limited period of time. It's very hard to beat the energy density of liquid fuel. And we'll see that from aviation as a particular example. Aircraft will continue to fly on aviation kerosene for the foreseeable future. There is no viable alternative. They talk about sustainable aviation fuel, but it's made from waste material, and there's not enough waste material around to touch to do much more than about 10% of it, realistically. So kerosene is going to be around for a long time yet, a liquid fuel. And when we start to struggle with reduced fossil supply, then these other e-fuels become more and more attractive, and the costs will come down. So I think we have a viable future. I think the energy density of liquid fuels is key to this.
Thank you, Nigel, for this explanation. I see a raised hand from Neil Smith, and then we are slowly but surely going to the closing time of this session. Neil, please.
Hello, thanks, Gian Mario. Just two very interesting presentations today. I was interested in both of them. It's really just a comment here. The two vehicles I've got at the moment, one is a 1932 Austin 7, which would chug along quite happily in either e-fuels or biofuels. The cost I could justify with my mileage at the moment, even £5–6 a litre, I could run to that for the Austin 7. My other car at the moment is a Mercedes Vito, 8-seater pickup for all the kids, and the cost of that would be no use at £5–6 a litre. So I think it's going to come down to a cost thing at the moment. But certainly in the UK here, just whatever fuel you think you're going to run, the duty's just incredible on it, and it'd be interesting to see what happens to the duty figures, as other people have said, on biofuels. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I one last comment to Tito, please? The taxation issue was very interesting. I'm not aware of any initiative on that front, but I think we should lobby for that, because if governments give incentives for buying electric cars, they should also give incentives for buying alternative fuels. This is my personal opinion, and it's worth nothing, of course. But if we all agree about that, I think it should be interesting to group and to try to spread this kind of conscience.
Ramin?
Hello?
I see a forest of raised hands. Who's there?
Very short one.
Mikens.
Yes, that's me. Dutch speaking from France. I can add something on the taxation happening at this moment right now in the Netherlands, where subsidies for electric cars are going very slowly, but in the end, in a few years' time, completely out of the order. No more advantages. Even taxation is coming back slowly as well. So the advantage for the electric vehicles is, for political reasons, going, at least in the Netherlands. That's all I wanted to ask to that point. Thanks.
Okay, I see Ronnie as again a raised hand.
Yes, talking about taxation, my question was the actual price of the biofuels or the e-fuels. You gave something like 8 or 5, I don't know, I remember what was the figure. Does it include the same taxation as the fossil, or is it without taxation?
It's with taxation. The numbers I was talking about, the £5–6 UK a litre, is with the normal taxation.
Okay. So if you already,
which is high, which is about is 50
60%,
53 pence a litre, I think it is at the moment.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's massive, and the point was made as well that the tax benefits for EVs are going to be gradually reduced, and they're going to start charging in the UK, certainly road tax as rather than free road tax. They're going to have to start paying now, so it's gradually increasing.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Ramin, would you like to wrap up?
Well, actually, thank you. And I want to thank our guests once again for a eye-opening presentation. One thing I think from my own view that comes to mind is that when you look at the numbers of 40% volunteering to try the e-fuels, I think it's an issue of awareness as well. I think there is an acute lack of awareness about that, the fact that these engines are not damaging, these fuels are not damaging engines, they're not, and they actually have a great potential. I think a lot of it goes down to awareness. And I think one of the issues that we have to look into is also creating more awareness. And I hope this chat room today was a good start. And I want to thank our guests and also thank our participants today for very, very interesting and eye-opening chat room. And thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you somewhere. Have a nice day. Have a nice sleep. Bye-bye.
Bye, Tito.
Bye.
I'll say goodbye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Nigel. Thanks
Yeah.
again.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, Nigel. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
my pleasure. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.